You have exactly the capacity that you need for the season that you're currently in. This friend, she had one child. I had 4 kids, ages 5 and under. And I just reminded her, like, I have the capacity for 4. You have the capacity for 1. You need to be a good steward with your capacity, with where you're at. You do not have to worry about having any capacity for 2 children until that baby is born. I will be given the capacity that I need only in the moment that I need it. Not when I'm practicing, not when I'm fearful, not when I'm playing hypothetical situations in my head.
My name is Lisa, mother of 8 and creator of the blog and YouTube channel Farmhouse on Boone. On this podcast, I like to talk about simplifying your life so you can live out your priorities. I help you learn how to cook from scratch and decorate on a budget through this podcast and my courses, Simple Sourdough and the Simple Sewing series. I also help people reach their goals from home through my business course, YouTube Success Academy. I will leave links to these resources in the show notes and description box below. Now let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. Today I'm having on a listener favorite guest, Leslie Burris of Leslie Burris over on Instagram, leslieburris.com. We are going to chat motherhood, entrepreneurship, and mostly just catch up. I love talking to Leslie. We've never even met in real life yet, but we absolutely need to. We chat for way too long. So put this in your maybe get some housework done and enjoy. Leslie, I'm excited to have you on and to catch up. I was just on Instagram this morning and I saw that you went live and I hadn't seen you around there for a while. So I was like, oh, I want to catch up. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk to her later today. So we have a lot to talk about. Like what's been going on lately. You've started a new business.
Yes.
So for those who don't know you, I guess let's give us a quick introduction. Obviously you were on the show either last fall or the fall before. We can't really decide. But yeah, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Leslie Burris. I'm a mom of 7. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And much like you, Lisa, we are a self-sustaining family. We work together as a family and really leverage social media. And it's really, it's amazing. Like when I think about when my parents ask me, like, what do you do for work? And I'm like, I don't know. I talk to my friends. I talk to my friends and I help them. I'm a huge fan of moms and grandmas. I just love, I don't know. I just talk to people and I do have a blog. I do have a YouTube channel thanks to your amazing courses and things like that. And so, yeah, I'm just, I guess you could just call me a classical mom blogger, I suppose. Is that still a thing or is that for 2015?
I mean, I feel like that's done through Instagram, but
yeah, I would say I'm a lifestyle blogger through Instagram. That sounds, gotcha. I mean, I don't know how technical that is, but technically I'm a domestic engineer. I have 7 kids, so we're running a house much like a business, you know, kids waking up, getting up, doing homeschool. And we do, much like you, we do a lot of cooking from scratch. We have a really, I don't know, minimalistic life, I guess you could say, but it is such a fulfilling one. It's like slow and intentional, yet it's so fast. And so I do invest a lot of time over on Instagram. And yeah, you're right. I actually took a 40-day break. And we could talk about that a little bit later. I know some people who are on Instagram or want to grow an audience, they think to themselves, like, do I have to be on here all the time? And I just got back from like a really kind of intuitive break. I don't plan those things. I'm not much of a content planner. And yeah, I did go live. It was the first time I had seen my audience and connected with them there. And I actually treat Instagram much like a podcast. I do have a regular podcast, but I also just really like to connect with moms and grandmas on Instagram. So
yeah. Taking a break from this awesome conversation to tell you about today's podcast sponsor, Birch Living. Now, if you follow my main channel, Farmhouse on Boone, you've heard of Birch Living because we have loved them for many years. Birch Living makes mattresses that are crafted with responsibly sourced materials such as organic cotton, organic wool, and 100% natural latex. Their mattresses are free from polyurethane foams, which can cause harmful off-gassing, and are also constructed without fiberglass that can be detrimental to your health. We spend spend a third of our lives in bed. So when we are prioritizing sourcing quality things for our home, a mattress is one of those places where I think it makes sense to seek out quality. We have 3 Birch mattresses in our home, and we're actually adding a 4th. We're going to upgrade to a king in our bedroom. I've been thinking about this for years, never did it. And since we loved the Queen Birch Luxe so much, I know that we're going to love it in king. Now the Birch Luxe is an upgrade to the well-loved Birch Natural mattress. It's comprised of 8 different layers of organic cotton, organic wool, and 100% natural latex. It has a plush Euro top, so all that to say, very comfortable. And then we have 2 of the well-loved Birch Natural mattresses in the kids' rooms, and we will eventually want to add more in the twin size, and everyone loves them. Now the great thing about Birch is they do offer a 100-night sleep trial plus a 25-year warranty, so that you can be sure that the investment you're making will last for a very long time and be money well spent. Birch delivers your mattress right to your door for free within the US. They also offer in-home setup and removal to make your buying experience as convenient as possible. Now, Birch Living is offering Simple Farmhouse Life listeners 20% off your Birch mattress with my code FarmhouseLife and the link birchliving.com/farmhouselife. Of course, I'll leave the QR code right here. It'll also be linked down in the description box below. Again, thank you so much, Birch, for sponsoring today's video. Well, and you've been busy because you've started a brand new avenue for your business. So you can tell us a bit about that, Elby's.
Yeah. So that was kind of a crazy thing. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I had major eczema all over my hands, and I didn't know if it was hormonal or what. And so someone had told me all about beef liver. And so I started taking beef liver, and I was like, my energy was great. And my pregnancies were better, and I didn't have to do like iron supplementation. And so I started taking beef liver and beef organs on my own as a just natural supplement or a natural multivitamin, I guess you could say. And when I was sharing this with my audience, people went crazy, and they were like, I want to try like beef organs. They're affordable and they work and they're great. And so all my friends were having this success. And the common question I was getting in my DMs is, how do I give this to my kids? And so, I had some people in my audience saying like, well, my kid just eats the capsule, like chews on it. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. And then some were saying like, I tried to mix it in applesauce and it wasn't really working. And what was really interesting is that on Christmas, like a few days before Christmas, we were getting ready to travel to my parents' house. And it was a sleepless night. Our baby, like your baby at the time, was like 5 months old. And so sleep was not a thing that we were doing then. And I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I had this idea of like, those yogurt melts that you buy from the store? Like it'd be really cool if you had a beef liver yogurt melt that you could just give to your kids, like breakfast, like with breakfast, like treat it like an actual supplement. And so I had that idea, and I was like, I don't know if people will go for this, but I knew I would make them for my 3 little boys who don't take pills yet. And so I bought a Harvest Right machine. I bought like the Big Daddy. And I started, again, going on Instagram Live and just sharing with my audience what I was doing. I was literally like making little yogurt drops on trays, and it was slow. But what was really cool is I started, like, I showed them the product, and I kind of brought my audience along with what I was making. And they were all like, are you going to sell those? Because we want some of those. So I had some local people asking me like, hey, can I come by and buy some of those beef liver yogurt melts? Because I want to see if it works for my kid. I want to see if it keeps them a little bit healthier. And, the eczema conversation came up. And so I was like, sure. And the thing is, I could make 17 bags a day with one machine. And so I was like, I'd get 250 bags in 1 month. And I would put them out to my email list, and they were gone in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Sold out. Like moms were like, my kids are just putting them in their mouth and they're feeling really good. They're not having to mix up applesauce or try to coerce their kids. Like they were actually eating them. And so one thing led to another. And I thought to myself, like, well, what would it be like to bring a product to market? Like if this was market testing time, it seemed like I had a viable product, which I've never been, we talk about that in the entrepreneurial space, but like you and I, I love digital stuff. I love, creating things, and I'd never done an actual physical product, and I actually had a lot of people tell me like, don't do food, don't do anything. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did the opposite. And I asked myself, like, how could I bring this to market in a clean, like FDA, like check the box kind of situation? And so
that does sound overwhelming.
But here's what's really crazy, Lisa, is that we bought this property a few years ago in Oklahoma, and it had this huge barn in the back, and it was just like rat infested. It was like a glorified home for our lawnmower. So it wasn't really being used. We were actually going to put our house back on the market and sell it. And then we didn't. We took it off the market. And you and I were kind of texting about this. Like we kind of just got everything ready. And then we just pulled back and said, like, what if we just invested here? And that's when I started having the question of like, what would it look like to have a commercial kitchen? One thing led to another. Now we have a fully functioning commercial kitchen, and I have it set up in such a way where I can teach like 4-H small business classes for kids and homeschool. So like they can peek in the window and they can learn how the product is made, and they can see how it's packaged. So it's really handmade, hand-packed, organic, grass-fed, grass-finished beef liver baby bites. I have some here just to show the audience what they look like, but they're literally like those little yogurt melts.
Oh yeah, so cute.
And they're, they're handmade, and you and I both know we love that handmade feel. Like I love going to those country stores and things like that. And so we're actually just in our grand opening phase. The kitchen is now ready and it's ready to go. And we had a couple businesses local here that are stocking them on their shelves. And so it was really one of those things that I had not on my radar. It was like, let's buy one machine, and now we have 5 and a fully operational commercial kitchen. So I'm excited. And I also am like, I don't know where this is going,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of taking it one day at a time and making a really simple product for moms to get beef liver into their kids' daily routine.
Well, and it's nice to know for those who are thinking about possibly wanting to earn an income from home that you don't always have to have all the pieces spelled out. That's another thing you talk a lot about is with like your social media growth. You do it opposite of what other people do. You're like, I don't niche down. I don't plan content, which to be honest is like completely the opposite of what I do.
I told everybody that on the live today, because I've seen your like Trello board and like, you're like
my
weeks
goodness.
in
Yes,
advance,
like,
which is great.
Very different than how I do things.
That just shows you that.
But it works for you.
Right. Yeah. I definitely do more of an intuitive thing, but yeah, it really is just one foot in front of the other. I know sometimes we want to like know the outcome and know every step, and it's been a roller coaster. I'm not going to lie. It's not been easy, but in other ways, the market testing has been fun for me because as an entrepreneur, I've never done anything like this. And we really had a heart to work together as a family and have a family business. And so now my kids are working with me.
Yeah, it's a very tangible thing for them to do,
Very tangible.
Yeah.
They actually have to like wash dishes, and, they get paid for it. And so I actually watched a podcast episode you did with the elderberry family where they're making like elderberry syrup. And I just thought that was so good because they were talking about things that they were doing, and they kind of followed that same avenue of like, well, we're just going to try it and see what happens. And it's really fun. And so if you're thinking about doing anything like this, I would say just start with what you have, start small, and just one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. Well, so you guys work as a family, and that in itself presents some unique challenges that I think that a lot of people want that life, and it's more possible now than it was in the past. Like when my parents had a family business, that meant my mom and my dad went to a place and they worked really hard. I mean, not that obviously we worked very hard too, but it's a physical kind of work that they had to do. And, they had to be out of the house. We had to go our separate ways. And today there's a lot of different, like you and I, we have very different businesses from each other, but yet with the same goal in mind. And a lot of people are pursuing that same thing in a lot of different ways. I mean, there's like a lot of experts trying to keep up with it. Like, like I have all this advice, yet in truth, there's just a lot of different ways that you can do it. There's a lot of opportunities. So what are some unique challenges that presents? And then what are some unique benefits of working together as a family?
Well, I mean, I would say the challenge is our oldest is 13 and our youngest is 1. And so we still have nap time, but we also have big kids. I think you and I hit on this on our last conversation, where I really feel like I have 2 sets of children. I have, preschool and younger, and then I have the big kids who are interested in big kid activities. So I
feel like I now have 3. Like,
you have like,
I entered into that. Like, I have the 16 and 14-year-old girls, and then there's like the middle boys, and there's like the little boys,
Yeah, it really is. It's really interesting. So I would say that the unique challenges is we homeschool. And so, we have, people say like, it would be so nice to be able to sleep in and not get up and move. But I'm like, you can't really do that when you're running this big of an operation. It does require you still to like get up and have a plan for the day.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So like it feels like we're really running multiple businesses, because the home functions like a business in and of itself. It has overhead.
Yeah, it sure does.
It's like a restaurant. You got to have the fridge stocked. You got to have a meal plan.
Yeah,
you gotta,
fridge stocked. Right.
Yeah, it really is. It's like running a restaurant. And so, the challenge is like just keeping up with both. Like, we now have 2 kitchens to clean.
Right.
And then we also have to do schooling and things like that. So I would say the challenges is just learning how to schedule, and also being okay emotionally with being different from other families. Because it really is like, are we doing the right thing? It's kind of like, because it's just so different than even some of my own friends. Where they're doing the more traditional thing. I would say that maybe in the more homeschool community, it's like the dad goes to work and then the mom is home doing all those things, where, we have both me and my husband. And so it's like you have the traditional 9 to 5 where all the family, like you said, splits apart. Everybody goes to school, everybody goes to work, and then we all come together and do dinner and all that stuff. And then you have the other lifestyle, which is like mom is running the small business at home, and dad's bringing in all the income, and that has its own unique challenges. But then to have this like other sliver of lifestyle is like, you're kind of the odd duck.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's a unique challenge just emotionally, to say, yeah, we're in full responsibility of our choices, and we don't know how this is going to turn out. We're like 100 years into the Industrial Revolution. And so that's different. Like, we're almost like doing a return back to what used to be, which was families working together in their home.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. So it's kind of like you don't fit in either camp, but that's okay too. I think it does inspire, like you said. I think there are a lot of people who are wanting to be a family unit, and they want to be together. They don't want to be separated so much during the day. Which I would say that's the unique benefit, right? Is like, my 13-year-old actually said to me recently, she's like, I can't wait to get married, and I want me and my husband to be together all the time. I want us to work together all the time. And I just thought, like, that's a really unique benefit, because she's getting a totally different frame of mind for how her family's going to function just from what she's growing up in now. And so that's a benefit. And also, there are days when people get sick, and we just tend to that. We don't have to call in. We don't have to put anybody out. It's just like, maybe our day is out, but it's such a benefit, because my husband and I will say, I'm glad it's you that's sick and not me, and vice versa. And like, we're a team. I'm not trying to do this thing by myself. And so that in and of itself is really, really a great, unique benefit, in my opinion.
It is. Stuff can really slow down if it needs to. Like, if there's a sickness, or if the weather's insane, which this comes out, it's springtime, so it's going to be warm, right? Like, always and forever, all the way until next November. I always think that around like probably May, when we're like very securely past any cold, I'm like, I don't have to worry about this until late October.
Yeah.
But yeah, the flexibility of getting to be able to change the day up. Like, just for an example, our house is under construction right now, and we had to meet yesterday with somebody over there to do concrete, and then we're meeting for another reason tomorrow. And so we're in a unique life phase that won't be here forever. Next year, this time, and probably forever more, we will never be building again. So, it allows us to have flexibility during seasons where we prioritize something that will not normally be that same priority. And so it's very flexible. And that's,
when you're loading everybody up in the van and you're going to and from for the property, like you do end up looking back on that time and saying like, wow, I can't believe how we did that. And it really is a season or an era of its own. And it doesn't last forever, but just like winter is leaving, we're like, please leave faster, like seasons do. And praise God for that.
Well, I was telling my husband, it's funny because next year I'll look back at the photos of, because you're in Oklahoma, so you're not far from me. We got so much more snow this year than we've gotten in, so many years. And I'll look back and I'll think, oh, it's so pretty, the snow and the ice, and look at the ice skating photos and the videos of us like sledding and skating. Right now,
said the romantic content creator, like finding beauty and everything. It's always fun to look back, but then you're like, do you remember all the boots and all the tears and all that?
Well, it doesn't help that I create videos in that way. So when I look back at them, I believe it too,
100%.
It was so lovely. I loved every part of it. I mean, what's the point in being super negative about it, I guess? But
totally.
It's a season and it's flexible. But you and I both, like, to get to the point where we could work together as a family, there's some years where that couldn't be possible. Like, you can't just quit your job without having something that's already working. So I don't remember if we talked about this last time or not, but what did that look like for you as a stay-at-home mom trying to build something so that, you guys could achieve this goal that you set out presumably before that happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've actually reflected on this a lot because I help a lot of other people grow their online audience so that they can get to this place too. Like, again, that the desire is really there. And to be quite honest with you, we have lived the hybrid 9 to 5 for a few years. I would say that there were actually times where it wasn't like, I know when you shared your story, you said, when you brought your husband home, when you guys decided to work together as a family, there were things secured in place that you could do that. We haven't paid off our mortgage and we haven't done that yet. So it was a lot of false starts and stops. There were times where my husband would come home and we would try it and it would be way too overwhelming for me. And so he would go back to work. And we did that probably 3 times over the last 7 years. And so I would say to anybody who is wanting to get into this lifestyle, if you have false starts and stops, like, that's okay. It really, just like even filing taxes is completely different when you're in a 9 to 5 versus a self-employment. And that, when you're not used to that, it takes time to adjust, and that might mean you'll start and you'll stop and you'll start and you'll stop. So for those of you guys who are like, oh man, we were doing so good, but then my husband had to go back to work. Don't let that mean anything negative, that you're doing anything wrong. I would tell you, as somebody who is, if we had to do that and send my husband back to work tomorrow, we would make it work. But it is a lot of kind of straddling the fence between those two worlds of, 9 to 5 versus a self-sustained growing family together, which is another reason why LB's was so lucrative for us, because when we looked at our budget and things like that, we were looking for other avenues that didn't require, it was kind of more of our asset, not just promoting other companies and me having no control over any of the things. And so this really did put some ownership in our pocket. And when we ran the numbers, we thought this could be really something for us that would keep him from having to go back to that 9 to 5. And so it took a few years. Honestly, it was back and forth a few times. And, yeah.
I mean, you seem to just like really, what's the word I'm looking for? Fearlessly jump into things. Like, and that's the same way with the way you pursue your social media. Like, you've had live throughout your entire labors, which for those who don't yet know about Leslie Burris, you've had 3 babies. Yeah. Like, you've documented, live from start to finish. Yes. Right now, I don't know if I need to catch up on it, but you've been talking about your fertility journey. And so I do feel like you kind of fearlessly approach life, which some people have, we all have different ways of how we pursue things. And,
I come from a long line of worry warts. I feel like
that's the whole point of your podcast.
I really do. I actually am really afraid. However, I think when I'm making a calculated decision, so I have a really strategic mind. So if my husband says like, hey, I want to go to Hawaii in April, I'm going to be like, 700 different paths to how we're going to get there. And I'm going to say, there's no way we can make that happen. Cause I'm just like strategically, it just like clicks in my brain. And so, it may seem like I'm risky, but I also I see 17 steps ahead and I kind of work myself backwards. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about probability and outcomes, the risks that I am taking, they are calculated, though they look a little reckless. And that's okay. I mean, but I do, my husband is, he's in the room with me now. He'll tell you she's the most worrywart that I know. Like because I can see some of those outcomes and I don't know how which outcome it's going to land on. It's kind of like the game of Plinko on The Price is Right. We're like, we're just dropping the disc and one of the 9 lanes is going to be where we land. But I would also say one of my biggest ways that I make a decision, especially risky decisions, is will I regret looking back when I'm 90 that I didn't do it? Right. So it's like the pain of regret has to come to the table. And so, I think that really matters. And like, let's say the worst thing that can happen is, my audience actually, and this is why I help people grow an online audience. They're the reason my commercial kitchen exists. Like we had investors come in and they're like, we believe in you. We want to partner with you. We want to see you succeed. And so, I say that because when I think about the worst that could happen, it's like, okay, let's say I'm out $250,000 and this whole thing goes down. That's the worst that could happen. Is like, I'm looking and then like the worst that could happen is everybody writes me a 1-star review on Shopify and says, this is the worst product we've ever had. Or, like LB is the worst. And I think about that and I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty heavy. And then I think to myself, well, what if it works?
What's the best that could happen?
Right. And somewhere in the middle of the best, which is like, we pay off our investors in a year, we own it outright. We're bringing in great revenue and people love it. And then we're having, I've already been approached by some manufacturing companies who are like, let's get you in Whole Foods or I'm like, well, let's do some more market testing first. But what if it goes well? And what if this product is something that actually sets our family up for a legacy income for generations to come? Right. So you have to kind of look at both ends, right?
Yeah. You have to take risks for those kind of things to even be in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. So your daughter plays guitar, right?
One of them, yeah.
Or did. So with the guitar, you have the tension of the string. Like you have to tune it and it has to pull from 2 different ends in order to get a really beautiful note. And so that tension is your life. Like it could go really great and be the best thing that ever happened to me. Or this could be the absolutely worst thing that can happen to me. And I would say all of life is lived in the tension that makes music. And so if you can be, again, it's like calculated risk. And so, I can see how some people would be like, LB, I do move fast. I think doubt, inactivity increases doubt. So if you're thinking about
100%, yes.
If you think about doing something, but then you don't act on it, the doubt that it's going to work only increases. So I'm, like the good old John Maxwell says, like, do it fast, do it now. Just do it now.
Uh-huh.
Launch your podcast now. It takes 2 seconds to start your YouTube channel, get your microphone out, set your phone up and do it now because you can always add a beautiful mic. You can always build a studio later. You can always do those things later, but don't delay the first step and doing what you can do and be faithful with what you're doing right in this moment with what you have. And so that's kind of my MO on social media too, is I like to kind of push people along to say how can you do this now? Because you don't just wake up one day and have a whole small business in your backyard. It usually starts with one thing that you're faithful with that you try. And then one thing leads to another. And so, yeah, it looks risky and it looks crazy. And to be fair though, with the whole online birth, I did that. I knew, so I grew up watching A Baby Story on TLC. Did you ever watch that show?
Oh, heck yes. Oh, yeah. What dating story, wedding story, baby story.
100%. Like that was
loved it.
Pretty much our YouTube channels now.
Like when we were 15, 14, 13, that's what we were watching.
Right. And so
12. When did that come out? I don't even remember. I was definitely a little 12. Kid. Like if I was driving, I wouldn't have been at home watching TLC.
100%. There's no way. But yeah, I just remember seeing, they show you especially with birth, you either get like the really dramatic highlight reels of like, this is what happened. I ended up with, whatever. And this is like bad. Or it's like super glorified where it's like so beautiful that people are like, what? Is that even possible? And so because I had been through home birth before, I knew that I wish I could have watched someone from start to finish. I wish I could have seen somebody move through and see the slow process. And I wanted people to make an educated decision based off of all the birth, not just the highlight reel.
Right.
And so that was my motivation. It was kind of like a baby story on steroids, I guess is what I mean. That was my
modern
strategy.
Day, like we can live stream now kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And what was
baby
crazy,
story.
The amazing outcome of that, by the way, was, we didn't know COVID was going to happen. We didn't know things were going to shut down and do that. And so a lot of women actually chose home birth. And my first birth that I did was pre-pandemic time. And so they actually had felt comfortable doing a home birth because they had seen that. And so when they had to pivot, they had some evidence that it might actually turn out okay and they can do it. And so that's why I did it. I really wanted women to be educated. And again, it's just like, is there risk? Could my baby die when I'm giving birth in front of 3,000, 4,000 people?
So that's the kind of things you actually think about here. I'm like, you're so fearless, Leslie. Like you just go for it. And you're like,
I calculate it.
What happens if my baby dies on camera?
Yeah, just like I was telling you about the building, it's the same thing. Like, what's the worst that could happen? I could die. My baby could die. It would be well documented. My midwife could be sued. Like she could lose her license. Okay.
That's fair. That's probably the things that would go through my head if I did that.
100%. And so again, it's that tension. It's like, here's the worst that could happen. Here's the best that could happen. And somewhere something would land in the middle. And so, it ended up being really good. A lot of women have come back and said, I'm so glad that you shared that with me because they got a totally different look at birth than what they even had ever imagined. So.
Yeah. I've been told by people that I'm fearless as well. And it's funny when you are told that because the internal dialogue that actually happens in your head and you're like, I don't know who you're looking at, but I actually think of all the things, even though maybe it appears that I just go. And I'm constantly talking about this, like in my course groups, you were saying that inactivity actually makes you I don't remember what you said, but I talk about it all the time. Like you just have to go because
it feeds doubt. This is never going to
doubt.
work.
You're going to rethink it. I can do that still. Like I have to get out a video a week because I have a sponsor.
Yep.
I have a content schedule at this point to keep up with.
Yep.
And I always have this moment where like, I don't know what to film.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, I have to film today. Like, it's not like I better just film me sweeping the floor because there's no other option at this point. Like I have to film something. And so then guess what? Camera comes on.
Yeah.
I film something stupid. I have to turn it into something kind of pretty-ish because there's no option. And so you just have to go.
Yeah. And I think too, and I'm sure you can relate to this, that whole like, I don't know what to do. It's just your brain being lazy. Like, I don't feel like doing this right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is 100%.
Just like I never feel like doing the dishes. Like I never wake up like, oh, I'm so excited to wash, 9 sets of dishes twice, 3 times, 4 times a day. Cause I have big kids who make their own meals now. And so it's more dishes.
Odd hours.
At odd hours. And they want to make like yours. Mine are baking now. So like making all the treats and stuff. And so I never want to do it, but I do know that, and I think that this came from Atomic Habits. In all my spare time, I read all these books, just kidding. But they said like, if you just set the timer for 5 minutes and just do something for 5 minutes, things in motion stay in motion.
They absolutely do.
So you get that camera rolling and you're like, all right, sweeping. I don't feel like doing this. And then you're like,
it's the thought of like doing it that's hard. But then like when I start going, it's no big deal. It's not like this really hard thing that I'm like, oh, this is going to be a terrible day. Once I'm going, I'm good to go. It's just like getting yourself just to stop thinking and start doing is a lot of times the hardest part of all of it.
And then you get that awesome relief when you like put your YouTube video in the scheduler and everything's done and it's like ready to go. Okay. And you're like, okay,
I'm like, yay, I'm going to film again tomorrow because that took a week and now we're back at square one again. But yeah, pretty much. I had the realization the other day that because we've done a lot of like quote unquote risky things. Like we started a business, my husband quit his job, like we bought a farm, like all this stuff. But the other day I was like, man, I think like, and I had a lot of children. There we go. Like that's another thing that you're just kind of trusting, like this is going to work out. Like, because everybody, thinks, 18 years from now, like, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? Yeah. So we've done a lot of risky things. But the other day I was like, man, I think one of the not riskiest, but like the scariest projects I've ever undertaken is actually this house build that we're working on. It just dawned on me. I'm like, this could turn out like you're buying something that you've never seen. And I have very high expectations for it. Yeah. And so I'm like, this is probably one of the more riskier things I've tried. Like just buying a property already done with no decisions to be made is actually,
because
a very safe choice.
Well, when you get into a house, you have just this gift of walking into each room and saying like, this is what's going to go here. And this is what's going to, but right now you're talking about proverbial rooms in your mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I can imagine that would be a little bit more difficult, but I totally believe that once you get into that bare room and you start seeing those walls go up, that creativity is going to come for you. And
well, I'm probably in the thinking part too much. Like I've thought about it way too much for there not being any walls yet. I think that's kind of full circle back to what we were talking about earlier, like overthinking and not just acting and doing. And like, I've started to get to that point with this where I'll come across like this certain company that does this certain thing. And I'm like, well, maybe I should weigh out all the options. I'm like, no, just that you liked it.
Yeah. Now you liked it. That's
go. Like
you got to
no
go
thinking.
Back to that. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to just like the decisions that were already made, take confidence in them. And then another step forward. It's kind of how I have been approaching this, at least more lately, and less of the thinking. And I think that kind of can be applied to like all this stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, totally. And even when you're choosing like flooring and stuff, like I know we want it to last 20 years, but we're also human beings who get bored. So like,
true. Yeah.
In 10 years, you could be like, I really don't like that. And so like, I think again, I see people actually hesitating to make decisions because they feel like they have to make it last for a long time or they have to love it forever.
Yes.
Yeah. And the truth is, so this is another thing when it comes to my social media too, is like, I get bored. That's why I will not niche myself. I don't want to be boxed in. I want
because
to be
you'll quit, right? Like if you can't,
I have to like it.
Yeah.
And I know that like every single person has such amazing value and they have all these incredible, unique, niched stories. And so the way I think about social media and just life in general is I know that I can just go pull a book off the shelf and hand it to someone in my audience. And the algorithms also are just incredible today. So we can be less keyword search oriented now, which is great. But same with decision making. It's like, like I chose this wallpaper. I love this wallpaper, but I totally think in a year when I'm about to have another baby, I might tear that thing down and buy some new wallpaper. So like there will be resources and time for that too. And so I think just giving people room to be like fluid in their decisions and say like, I don't have to make this work forever. I can change this up and freshen it up. And you're so good at that when you're talking about refreshing, your pantry or your closet or whatever, you're just like, I'm bored and I don't like the way that looks. And I'm just going to, do something to it to spruce it up a bit. And we're always doing that in our own lives. We rearrange furniture. We get new drapes. We freshen things up. And I just think that when you're making decisions, any decisions, you have to take your humanity into account when you're making those decisions and saying like, this doesn't have to be the perfect thing. It might not be the perfect thing.
Yeah. So that's where like most of the doubt and the overthinking comes from is overestimating how big of a decision it is that we're making. Like a wallpaper. Like I remember choosing one wallpaper in my like the stairway going up at our last house.
Yeah, and I love that green wallpaper.
It was pretty. But the amount of time that I spent thinking about that, like It was as if this was like the most important decision I've ever made in my life. And like you said,
there's some expensive wallpaper out there.
That's true.
I mean, you talk about drapes being expensive. I go to anthropology.com and look up their wallpaper because they got $300 rolls over there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's
true. Yeah. So maybe it is that big of a decision. Maybe we should worry about it.
We should start worrying about wallpaper right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm going to actually interview you here for a second.
Go ahead.
We're in like that wallpaper era. Are you going to wallpaper the mess out of your new house?
I don't think I am. So we did that one wallpaper. I was obsessed. I thought it was the prettiest thing. Like it completely transformed this space. It made it like look grand and it really highlighted the staircase. But wallpaper and kids, like it's just, we had somebody like instantly had a grease hand go, I don't know what was on there, butter, I don't know, but grease fingers, and that doesn't come out. So I realized I was worried about the wallpaper, whereas like with paint, I'm never worried about it because you can just paint right over it. And so probably not. I'm sure I'll do some, like there'll be probably some spaces I'll have some fun with, but I'm not going to wallpaper every last bit of it. No.
Okay. So you're a paint person. That's
just because I don't like stuff in my house I have to worry about, you know?
Or if the upkeep is too much, which this is something that you said on one of your, I think it was one of your videos when you said you have to count the cost of what it takes to tend to the thing that you're buying. And I think that that's such wisdom because, you know, I bought one of those Robo-Rock mops. I love it. It's great. I use it 3 times a day, but it's kind of a beast to maintain. And like,
is it the little like robot robot vacuum?
No, it's like a regular mop vac. But the self-cleaning feature doesn't work very good. Plus you have kids and all these things, but you have to take into account, like, can I take care of a regular mop and bucket a lot easier? Like, do I have the time to tend to the thing that I'm purchasing and bringing into my home?
Yes.
And so that's what I think when you say like, I worry about wallpaper, what you're saying is I don't want to have to tend to that. I want to put it in and forget about it, you know, because you said, you can wash a wall. That's maintainable.
You don't want to have to worry that if a kid runs upstairs with like chocolate over their face, like ideally we stay at the table with that kind of stuff. But when you have as many kids as you and I have, does that mean that that's not going to happen? It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Or somebody's going to run upstairs with muddy boots. They're just going to do it. And so I have to definitely consider all of that. But yeah,
for sure. I just, you know, I think when you're tending to anything, you have to count the cost. And again, some people will say like, that's why I don't jump in because it's going to require too much of me too, which that's a whole nother conversation probably for another day. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how your space turns out. And I'm really excited to see you level up your creativity, you know, because I know you're used to like going into a space and making it beautiful, but this is different. It's from scratch. It's from scratch.
Yeah, I have a newfound respect for people who build stuff and I already did. I already knew that building would be really hard. I was never going to do it, but for very many reasons, it makes sense for us. But man, yeah, it's a whole different beast. And okay, let's talk about your stove behind you, because that's one of the things I'm thinking about is like, what kind of stove are we going to do?
This one.
I thought it was black, but it's still your red one. Oh yeah, it was just the way the light was. I was like, because I know you found another one. And I was like, did you replace yours? But no, it's the same one.
I have another one. Maybe you should buy it from me. No.
Oh, you still have it, huh?
I still have it. So we're like you. So we just finished building all that out there. So I'm going to take a breather. But our goal in 2026, which I think this was one of the questions that people had asked about us staying in Oklahoma. One of the reasons we were going to move is that this house was just too small. It's 1,600 square feet and there's 9 of us here. So it's fine.
That is small.
It is small. But we're talking about breaking ground and putting on an addition here in 2026. And so I have another AGA. Ideally and truthfully, when you have this many kids, having 2 next to each other is really amazing. But, you know, we also, these are collector's items. I think about my kids. It was given to us for free, the other AGA, and it was just a matter of going and picking it up and bringing it home. And so I couldn't pass that up. And so it's beautiful. Right. It will look great in a beautiful brand new kitchen. And we'll see how it goes. But I absolutely I will sell you the stove all day long. My kids cook all the time. Even my 5-year-old makes himself fried eggs, and I don't have to worry about him burning himself or anything like that. He's just not playing with fire. He's just cooking, and that's great.
Yes. Okay. So do you have any information or insight on the electric ones? Because the reason I'm asking is the way our plans are, it's not, my range won't be on an exterior wall, and there isn't really a good way to change it except for like moving my sink, which I don't want to do because I like the view and all this stuff. So do you know anything, like, are the electric ones as cool, or do they not have the same benefits?
Well, I think they function the same. I think that they run all the time, but with there's pros and cons to everything. So like if your electric goes out, unless you have a generator, you're without a stove. So obviously with propane, what's really great. So like we had that cold snap and we had ice. So I was afraid we were going to lose power. And when it's 2 degrees outside and we don't have a generator. And so the idea of this still being on, like I just had a plan that we would huddle up and sleep on the floor in the kitchen if we had to, because she's just so warm and cozy. So that's a benefit of having propane. But with electricity, the benefit also is if you wanted to shut it off, you can. I can shut this off and it's no big deal to turn it back on. But, I don't know the cost benefits. I don't know the difference between the two. I think the one that we got is another propane, but it might have a convert kit to it. I'm not sure. So I don't know. I think, again, it's what you want it to do. It's how you want it to function in your home. It's how, for us, I just love that everybody can use that. Like whenever we go to an Airbnb, the first thing out of all of our mouths is like, man, I miss Ruby.
Yes.
Because we don't use a microwave, and this is just so fast. Like pancakes, I can whip up batter right now and it's hot. I don't have to touch anything. It's just lift the lid and go. And so I love it. But for the technical stuff, I'm not sure. But if you could do,
I was just curious.
I don't know if you have propane out on your land, but
yeah, we will. It's the venting that's going to be the issue because it's on an interior wall.
Yeah.
And so if I switch the sink and don't have my sink, I don't know why, but I picture me like looking out while doing dishes. That's what I always imagine. So we like plan the entire house around my sink view, like the whole thing, like swapped where the kitchen was, like on the west side of the house. Like we did all this, and I'm like, can I still see? Like we're also doing a barn, and I'm like, well, will I be able to see past from my kitchen window? Like that's what this whole thing has been about.
Yes.
So I'm like, I don't know where I could possibly do that now.
Well, I will say the other one that I have doesn't have. So this is the flue. So this
which
goes
I think
up
is
and
so
out.
charming. I love the flue.
It is. It is really beautiful. But the other one that we have actually doesn't have. It has a vent that goes across the back here, so it doesn't have a flue.
Oh, okay.
So that keeps it from having to be on the wall for ventilation purposes. So it does have a vent that just
interesting
goes into the house.
Okay. Well, something to consider. I'm at the point where we have to make all these decisions because we're getting like the cabinetry figured out right now. And so the exact dimensions of the stove, I thought that was like, that I didn't think about it. Like that's another thing about this building is like putting the pieces in place. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll pick my stove when it's time to put the stove in the kitchen. I'm like, you need to know your stove yesterday because we're designing the cabinets that'll take 6 months or whatever to build. So we have the dimensions. And so I'm just like, okay, this is very
I will say,
current.
Listen, I will say bougie isn't always better. I have a friend who has one of those fancy ovens with all the little knobs that look like bathtub.
Yes. I know the one. Come on.
And she says, I don't know what it's called. Maybe. I think, what's her name? Elliot Homestead. I think she has one.
Oh, you're talking about the LaConch. That's one of my top considerations. Tell me about it.
Well, I have a friend who has one. Like she spent, $10,000, $12,000 on it.
I think more than that, which is why I'm like,
I don't know if it was like a marketplace thing or what, but
yeah, definitely got a lot of these searches in marketplace because that's but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a huge marketplace fan. But she was saying like she had bought this Airbnb rental and it had, just your basic janky stove, nothing fancy, a little GE. And she was like, I like that thing better than I like my fancy one at home.
So what's the reason? So, of course I'm drawn to just like it being more beautiful. Cause like in my current house that I live in between, we just have a standard. I don't know if they're $500 from Lowe's.
Yeah, probably.
White oven. It's, it works great. Like my last oven was a vintage from 1949. We had it restored, but something came loose with the hinge. And so the door no longer shut. I had to wedge something into between the doors to keep the door shut for the heat not to escape.
Sounds really safe.
yeah, it's great. I put paper in there. I really did. And I couldn't find anybody to fix it. Like my guy who done it before was like, we can't get those parts. And I'm like, well, great. So now like this thing is completely not worthless, but pretty much like nobody else would want it. And so my current oven, it works great. No complaints. Like it's just a cheap oven.
It's just
the
ugly.
fire comes on, stuff goes in, the temperature holds. Like my last oven, I got used to how it cooks, which it didn't hold the right temperature. And so I was used to how it works, but I agree. Like it works great, but I want the aesthetic and function. Yeah. And that's where it's like, okay, if the LaConch isn't as great as it sounds like it is, where do people go?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, where's the middle of the road?
I mean, the UGG is beautiful, obviously.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely, it really is a antique piece. I mean, this one's 30 years old. I think the other one is 1996. So I think they were both built and manufactured the same year. And so it is a timeless piece for sure, but I know you'll find the right thing. I know you'll land the plane. I have a couple friends who have them and they were like, we really like the cheap, janky ovens that seem to work in other places. Yeah. And so
I did a Reddit search and I had people say that you can't get the flame low enough to do like a light simmer. Which I'm like, well, that's interesting. Did she mention that?
Reddit is where you want to go for all the negative reviews. I'm proud of you. I'd never seen you as a Reddit girl.
I hate Reddit because it's where you get negative reviews on people too. But
yeah, I know. I never search my name on Reddit.
Absolutely
just don't
not.
do it.
But
never.
As far as stoves, like if you want the bad, the ugly, like you put in the stove you're thinking about, and then you put in Reddit,
and just
and you get all the opinions. So I don't know. But again, this is another one of those things that's like, this isn't the final decision of all time for life. So
there you go.
It kind of is though. Cause what if we build the cabinets around it? Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So then you have to ask yourself, are there two ovens with the same dimensions that if I had to pivot?
Well, exactly. We're talking mere inches. I think one could retrofit if one makes the wrong decision. So
yeah,
good point.
We just get Luke on it. He'll be fine. He got this.
Okay. So let's see here. I want to see some of the audience questions that people wanted to know.
Let's do it.
Why did they ask if you were planning on staying in Oklahoma since you started Elby's? I don't know what about that would change your, that situation, but I guess you already answered that. You are staying in Oklahoma because now
for now we're talking about that. I think what people are asking is like, now that you've built this commercial kitchen, is this where you're going to live and breathe for the next 20 years? And so I would say, I understand that logic too.
That makes sense.
I do have a lot of friends who are Okies here who would really like for us to stay. It's really fun getting to know people here in Oklahoma. But again, it's one of those, I hold things so loosely. My kids love Arizona and I love Michigan. And so wherever I am, I never really feel like I'm at home anyway. So Oklahoma is beautiful. The people are really kind and it's a really unique space. So for now, I would say yes, but also, you know me, I could just wake up tomorrow and be like, sold it all. We're moving to Hawaii. And people would be like, are you crazy? I'd say yes.
Yeah. Well, so yes, tentatively yes, but you just never know.
Just hold your hands open loosely. That's what I say. Just let it sit there. And
I think that's okay. I definitely have that personality too, which is why I shock people when twice on social media I move from what they deem to be the most perfect place ever on earth, because as content creators, we don't share everything, we just do not. Right. And so it's, I hold it loosely too, because you just never know.
You never know. You gotta hold space for opportunity.
Yeah. Yes. For opportunity.
If someone came to you tomorrow and said, we actually have 100 acres over here near your parents, and it already has a 3,000 square foot house ready to go. You can move in tomorrow. You guys might stop and pray about it. You know what
honestly,
I'm saying?
If that happened right now, I might still. All we have is the basement
That's
board.
what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying is like, this is where I think that when we make a decision, and this is probably coming from a really biblical perspective, like you can make your plans, but the Lord is the one that guides your steps. And you can make your plans, but what do they really mean? You know, plans change and things change and opportunities come that you may not get the opportunity to see again. And so again, weighing that opportunity cost is really important. So
yeah. Yes. Okay. So as far as entrepreneurship, I think we covered these questions mostly. What do you usually tell someone who's a stay-at-home mom who wants to start making an online income but hasn't started anything? Like, where do you tell them to start?
Yeah, I first of all, I like to tell people that affiliates, you have things in your home that you already love and use. Go get your link, go get your discount link, and you never have to share them. I always tell this to people too. Like, I don't create, and I know like when you were saying like, I'm going to create a video and the sponsor probably has to be cohesive for your video. The way that I come at it is I don't want to create a commercial. And so I'm going to share things that maybe have nothing to do with that product. But if I'm using it and people ask me questions, I want to be prepared to share that link. Right. And I also, as a stay-at-home mom, you live in a day now where, and I've seen this in my own coaching group. I coach people in a group and I help them strategize and get them ready for their viral moment, because I've had people who don't have a platform have a reel go viral, one in particular, and she made $2,500 off that reel and she didn't even try. And so that is in the realm of possibility. And so I would say the first step is round up your affiliate links, the companies and products and things that you love to use. Don't create all your content around it, but create content that speaks to the heart of the person you're trying to connect with, and they'll naturally ask. I think especially with the whole like niching idea of getting into a box, people feel like they have to create commercials. And the truth is, we're inundated with commercials. We like things that come from a more organic place. Now, again, with a YouTube channel, that makes sense. We are familiar in the YouTube land with paid sponsorships. Right. Okay? Yeah. That's no big deal. But when we're talking about Instagram and something that we're scrolling really fast, it's a little bit different ballgame. But there is so much online potential for earning money. I would also caution you, watch out who you buy your advice from on who is making money. I mean, obviously we've seen an increase of that, but I think that in this day and age, have your affiliate links available. There's no reason why you can't have a blog. I tell everybody, like, put your stuff in a blog post, put it in a blog post, because you can serve your audience so much more with that long form content when they ask for it. And you can just pepper that with links that feels natural. And so that blogging is not dead. It's shifting, but it's not dead. And so if I were a stay-at-home mom, I'd be I'd be getting my own website. I would be, making some highlights on Instagram. I would be connecting with people in my audience. I would begin to believe that my stories and the things that I have to share are valuable. And I would just go with it and just do it. Just don't fester in it too much. But, I'm helping someone I'm thinking of someone in particular. They came to me and they were like, they were making like $500 a month. And they're like, how do I make 3,000? And, in the matter of 4 or 5 months, they did it. And it was just literally having someone coaching them along the way to saying like, what you're sharing is really valuable. Like, just keep going. Just believe that it's possible, or at least entertain that maybe it might be possible. Right. Yeah. And share.
Yeah. I talk about that a lot, because if you don't, and it sounds, people like, well, it sounds like, basically, if you don't believe that it's going to help anybody or it's going to do anything, then why would you keep doing it? If you don't actually think that, then you're going to stop at some point.
Yeah. And I would say another tip that has really helped me grow into this over the years is that if I'm coming at a piece of content or I'm talking to my audience about something, I like curiosity-based marketing. So when people are naturally curious, I can just point them to things. I like that. I like talking about things not from a sales perspective. That's one of the main things that I get from people is I don't want to feel salesy. And then I remind them, like, the only reason you feel salesy is because you're wondering how much money you're going to make from that particular piece of content. But if you switch the focus and you think, how many people are going to be impacted by what it is I have to say and share and show, and I don't need to make a single dollar, you'd be amazed at how fruitful that can be. So the reason we feel salesy is because we're wondering how much money we can make. So if we can focus on how many people can we love and serve and collapse time for, money follows that. And then we don't have to worry about feeling salesy. You know, I don't need you to buy LBs. I don't need you to do that. But it exists. And if you want to, great. But I'm not going to create content that says like, I hope this generates sales, because that feels salesy. Good job. Yes. And so, but if I'm just like a micro bakery and I'm showing you day in the life, that is my actual real life. I walk out to the commercial kitchen. I put on my coat. I'm making bites. I'm loading freezers. That's just my real life. And if I'm filming that and people are curious about it, it may lead to sales. It may lead to a mom saying like, I really want to try those.
Right.
So I think that there is a strategy behind that for sure.
And you mentioned the algorithms, and I think I've heard several experts say, and I've definitely experienced this myself, we're kind of past like the follower era. Like we have followers still, like I still have YouTube subscribers, I have Instagram followers, but what you actually see and watch on those platforms has nothing to do, well, not nothing, but like it's pretty much minimal. Only to do with what you are interested in and not who you follow. And so like thinking like, oh, I'm behind, I don't have any followers. Followers are kind of not a thing anymore. I mean, no, they're not
kind of
like
not. Yeah. I actually, this is one of the things I've been really concerned about in the entrepreneurial space is when you have somebody who is going to teach you how to grow your Instagram and they have 200,000 followers. Well, they got those 200,000 followers by telling you to follow them because they're going to help you grow your Instagram. That is very different. This is why I offered my program to my people, because I did not grow my social media based off of that particular info. I am a lifestyle influencer blogger on Instagram, and I'm doing lifestyle things. I am not teaching you how to do reels and hacks and things like that. And so, and I would say for anybody who's feeling just overwhelmed and intimidated about Instagram, that is a sign that you need to retrain your algorithm. So just as easily as you can, like if you're, I bet you your Instagram is like recipes, Ruth Ann Zimmerman. And
no, I need to retrain mine. It's so dumb right now.
Okay.
Like, it's so dumb right now.
So you need to
that's why my followers are dead. Like all I see is stupid stuff that like, it's not people I follow. Sorry.
I know, but the problem is once you click on one reel and you think it's funny, I know, then they're like,
it's so annoying. That's why I delete my Instagram app on the regular. I'm like, I can't have this on here because it's just so dumb.
So
yeah,
funny.
I hardly ever have it on my phone. I have to get it back on my phone. Like probably once a week I put it on and then I have like some things I need to tend to and then I get it back off of there again.
So where do you scroll? You have to scroll somewhere. Where are you scrolling?
Oh, probably YouTube, honestly. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. YouTube is pretty great these days. Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's scrolling something because who's watching TV anymore? I mean, really.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. But that's why I say like, yes, there's brand recognition. So like, I have brand recognition. So if I pop up with my face, that's more likely for somebody to click on it, but it's not really due to like the follower count I have, because if you, like you said, like your algorithm is just fully trained on stuff you want to watch. So that's on YouTube, that's on Instagram. And so people still have a shot at creating original content that people want without having followers. Like people can go viral these days. Like that wasn't a thing. And so now like we have people starting and then passing up people who've been at it a long time because they hone in on what's the right type of content to make.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, every single piece of content is already niched in and of itself. So your feed doesn't have to be niched. Your profile doesn't need to be niched. You can now let a piece of content actually perform really well for you all on its own. So that, again, that's
exactly.
why, and that's why I tell people like, stop thinking of your page as the niche, think of your content as niche. And what I mean by that is like, let's say I've got a bag of LBs and I want to target moms with 2-year-olds. Okay. So I would do a reel and I would share and it would go to those who are scrolling and they have 2-year-olds. They're already looking at that content with little kids. They want to hang out with other moms. I could also create a reel that's for grandmothers in a nursing home who can't chew anymore and they can't swallow pills anymore. And so I I could literally come up with 100 pieces of content that were niched to a very specific people group and dispense all of that and let the algorithm put it in the particular feeds that are already feasting on that kind of content. So it's very different than before. It was like, you need to have your Instagram fully unlocked and it has to be cohesive.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's not. Yeah.
I disagree. I think people want more conversational content than they want expert content these days too. So
it's true. That's why people are searching for Reddit, because we don't want a review. We want people to.
It's a disclosure season, isn't it? It's kind of weird. Like people are like internet sleuthing, like where is this person and who is real and who is not, which is great for those who are playing the long-term game when people are nervous about AI. I actually am excited about AI because I think it's going to increase the value of our humanity. And so as long as you are conversationalist and you actually love and care about humans, you will have people who tune into your content. And so virality and making money on the internet they're synonymous now. If you don't know how to do it, that's just a skill to learn. And, just like anything, if you're starting to learn the piano, you start with chopsticks and you learn how to read music, but you don't expect to be Mozart.
Right.
So just give yourself a lot of grace and say like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's okay. You get better as you do things and post things, and nobody knows what's going to go viral. Nobody knows. The trends are changing 17 times a day.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is probably another reason why I tell people don't hack too much, because the hacks are always changing.
Right. Yeah.
So you can waste all your energy.
Yeah.
Waste all your energy learning hacks just to have them change it. And so, but it's an incredible time to be alive. If you think about it, you get to have your own radio show. You get to have your own TV show.
Yeah. Nobody had to like put this on for me. Like you can just do it.
You didn't
like,
have to try
tomorrow,
out. Yeah.
Anybody here could just go out and get a microphone. I mean, look at my microphone. It doesn't.
Marketplace. Tell me it's Marketplace.
Well, no, it's not. I had to get a new microphone. But when I went to actually hook it up onto my little desk here, there was a piece broke off. And so I had to hold it the whole time.
Listen, it's still, again, it's what are we talking about? And do people want to listen? Do they feel, again, it's how you make people feel that's more important than how a particular piece of content is performing.
Right.
Period. End of story. And that I think that will not change. You will see AI influencers and, some weird stuff coming. But at the end of the day, if you're a real human on the internet and you care about people, you're going to do just fine. You're going to do great.
When Luke and I were first married 17 years ago, we were on a super tight budget, and the only way that I could decorate my home and make it my own cozy space was by doing a lot of DIY and sewing. I've shared that for years on my YouTube channel, on this podcast, on my blog, and recently I put all of those resources together, all of the patterns, the tutorials, and then step-by-step instructions from getting a machine and threading it, learning about tension issues and the bobbin, all those things maybe over the years that have scared you away from sewing, into one course that I've called the Simple Sewing Series. If you've wanted to sew but have been intimidated by the process of getting started, or even if you're a more seasoned seamstress or sewist and you want to improve your skills, I really think that this will be a great resource for you. There's also a private community associated with it, so if you have sewing questions or you're excited to meet other people who are also getting started on their sewing journey, that's available with the course as well, and it's for a very affordable price. You can find my new course and all of the resources that go along with it over at bit.ly/simple sewing course. That's bit.ly/simple sewing course, all lowercase. That's where you can find more info and become a student. Okay, we have a couple of questions about the motherhood slump. Like, how can we keep a positive attitude and not let resentment set in? This person says, I want to be a fun mom, but every day feels like a hard slog. And then the other one says, advice for a new mom when the baby and toddler stage doesn't feel enjoyable. So just like slump, the motherhood slump. Oh, yeah.
So the motherhood slump, well, to speak to the whole, like, I feel like I don't enjoy, and maybe I'll get roasted for this, and this will be good. This will be good for my flesh to get roasted. I don't play with my kids.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about lots of moms feel that way, and it's not, you also have 7 kids, so
I made them brothers and sisters. I made you play with. No, but in all seriousness, the slump is real. And I would say, like, let's check your diet. how much water are you drinking? Are you getting outside? Are you getting enough sleep? I mean, to go from, and I think we said this on the last podcast, having 7 kids today is easier than having 2 kids when I had 2 kids 2 and under. I didn't have the skills. I didn't know what I was doing. I always felt this like negativity, like this guilt. Like I was just learning so much in motherhood. So the slump is like, I need to drink water. I need to go for a walk. I need a nap. Usually food, water, and a nap can really help with the slump. But also mom guilt is real. And if you can really mitigate some of that mom guilt and like every single mom with 2 little babies or 3 little babies, they are in it. It is, in my opinion, it was my hardest transition to go from 1 to 2 children.
I think most people say that, actually.
Yeah. I had this mom guilt over here because I wasn't doing everything for my second born that I did for my first. And so I felt bad for her. And then, I felt bad that I could no longer do for my firstborn everything that I used to do for my firstborn, because now my attention is I wouldn't say it's divided, because I don't think it's increasing capacity, but you can't do the same routines for each season. Every season,
yeah, everything changes about that.
Everything changes. And so I think the slump can really be triggered by how we view it, and also being really hard on ourselves. You know, like you were saying, being a perfectionist and being like, we have to be this perfect mom. There is no such thing. There's no such thing as a perfect mom, but there is such thing as a mom who is trying her best and is willing to apologize and make it right when she gets it wrong. That's called humanity.
Yeah. And there's grace for each day too. Like that's another thing we carry is all the days prior when you can just start fresh each day. And that's I think the hardest part about having 2 little kids. Like, you know, now if you were handed 2 little kids, there's a certain amount of confidence that would make that like not hard at all. But it's for me, when I had 2 little kids, like you said, the hardest part about it was thinking like, am I doing enough here? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? And like all those worries are just gone now. And so now it's just like the actual work of keeping them, which is like, it's not that bad. Actually, when you strip away all of the doubts and the craziness with that, it's actually like the job itself, apart from that, isn't really that hard.
Yeah. And I think it's the
certain
story
parts
we
of it
tell
are.
her.
Like there's some moms that want to literally kill me right now. But like it was hard
They're
for me
on
too.
Reddit. They're on Reddit right now.
They're on Reddit. She said it was easy. No, I'm not saying it was easy. It was really hard for me, like really hard. Yeah. But that's because I worried about like every little thing. Like the questions that new moms ask me, I'm like, oh, I don't worry about that anymore. But like I remember when I did, and it was really, really hard.
Yeah. Give it time. Give it time. And, you know, there is no easy answer. It's just like sometimes, and I think what we make the slump mean is really important too. So if, you know, I go through seasons where I'm down. I just went through winter. So I was in a slump. I didn't walk. I didn't lift a single thing in my gym. I YOLO'd. I sat and, you know, crocheted and watched your YouTube videos. And so like, I was like, you know, I was kind of sliding in and just kind of being like a little bit like Eeyore. And I don't make those seasons mean that I'm a bad mom. It just means I'm probably in a hard spot and this is how I'm coping.
Right. And yes. Yeah. And you won't carry that with you into the spring when everything feels great again. Right. Like
bloom.
That's
We're going to be arranging flowers really soon.
And I do want to go back to the like two little kids is easy part. How quickly we forget when our kids are sleeping through the night, right? Like, okay.
I have amnesia.
I'm going to go ahead and retract some parts of it. I just meant like the day-to-day, like making their food and like putting their little laundry. Like that part's really not bad. Like you can get them on a little schedule, but like when they're up all night, when they're 5 months to 12 months, that's hard. Like that. Yeah. I just mean like
sleeplessness is hard.
Sleeplessness is hard. That part's hard.
Every time. When that's the part of the slump, that is like, that's why I said take lots of naps.
It's hard every time. But when you divorce it from the worry, it's actually like, that's the worst part. Like the questions I get, I'm like, oh yeah, it must be hard if that's what you're worrying about, which I understand because, you know, you just don't know, like you're not on the other side of it yet. And you don't have any like humans that grew to age whatever they are to say like, oh, that's not a big deal. Like you're going to forget all about that. Like that book you didn't read them. They're not going to remember you ever read it. Like I do read to my little kids because they love it. It's enjoyable. But like, I don't know that they're going to remember any part of that when they're older.
Right. No, you're filling their love tank in an immediate way. and then just expect that tank to be totally empty and feral again the next day. And so like they're
if you miss a day,
they're not gonna need therapy for that. They're gonna need therapy for way other things that are coming as they grow up. And I laugh because if we don't laugh, we'll just take it too serious. We have to make room for our humanity in motherhood, and that helps us enjoy it a lot more. What was that last question that you asked though? It was a slump, and then it was
she just said like every day feels like a slog, and the other one said that the baby and toddler stage doesn't feel enjoyable.
Yeah.
They're demanding. Like there's just a lot of things they need. And also like I was going to say another thing that made having like younger toddlers hard. Like now my 3-year-old, he throws the most fits. Like he's just an extra,
what is
extra
this?
one.
Is it the 2021 kid?
I don't know.
Happening?
But like that would have like really got me. Like I'd have been like, he's just
especially in public.
And now it's just kind of funny. I'm like, good grief, child. Like what?
Yeah, even if they do it in public, I'm just like, picking them up. I literally, I'm sure someone saw me. I went to the store and my 3-year-old, again, just like, he's so strong now. I don't know about Victor if he's that strong, but like just throwing, or I think it was Theodore. They're the same age as Bohannon, but when he throws back now, he's really strong. Like like it could hurt. And I remember I was walking out, I was getting some kind of gift, or we're in some kind of video store, and he flailed. And I remember I picked him up by his shirt and the booty of his little jeans, and I was carrying him out to the parking lot like this because he was just flailing and having a fit. And I just looked around and I was like, hey, I couldn't wave because I was holding him, but I just looked at people and I was like, hey,
you've been here, right?
That's the word. Like if I feel embarrassed, that's only going to make the situation work. So if you can learn to laugh at yourself in those moments, you disarm the seriousness of having to be the perfect mom. Like if you can just, and again, one of my favorite movies growing up was Cheaper by the Dozen. And I don't know if you remember that movie, but they were like flinging food across the table, handing each other. It was just like
I need to watch it. I don't know if I've seen it. My family like quotes it, like some of my sisters think it's hilarious. And so I know some of the quotes from it, but like,
just watching their family dynamic and how like, it's again, when you can laugh at it and you don't have to, I just want you to have fun with it. You know, if I don't laugh at myself, it's going to feel bad if you laugh at me. So I might as well laugh at myself so you can really have a good laugh. You know what I mean?
Do you ever hang out with any other large family moms? Because I have a couple that like I see them once a year, twice a year maybe, but like 2 in particular that like we'll all get together. One has 11, one has 10. I have my little family, right? With 8.
Little.
And like you will notice like what happens when you've gone through that. Like just the things they're just letting just like the kids are happily playing. They're not worried about like the certain things that like when you're a new mom, you're like, oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. They're just like talking and chatting. The baby walks up, baby might nurse a little bit. Baby might walk again, like barefoot. And like, you'll just observe, like ever get yourself around a mom like that.
She's like,
and hang out and watch them. They make me look high strung. Like, and I, comparatively to like me 10 years ago, like it's been such like a sanctifying journey. Yeah. I am not, but like compared to them, you know, I am still like, I got some things that I'm like, and they have such happy, loved, successful children. Yeah. So I'm not saying like they just throw it all out. Not at all. Like they homeschool, they're very serious, intentional, but like there's these little things that promise if you're a new mom and it's really mortifying. Overwhelming, you're probably worrying about things that like you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And you can see it if you're around certain people. I don't know how you can get into that situation, but that's like the most, every year when I get to go to that, it's like the most, I love it. Cause I'm like, wow, like it's my learning session.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see the dynamics of big families. And, I will say to the one who has quote unquote, just 2 kids, it's not just 2 kids. It's a lot of responsibility. And I will tell you that you have exactly the capacity that you need for the season that you're currently in. So and I tell this when people
are more, you know,
absolutely.
That's just it.
So I was thinking as you were talking, I was like, oh, I remember this friend. She had 1 child. I had 4 kids, ages 5 and under, and her kid was like strung out, losing it, going crazy. And my kids were all sitting at the table, you know, being pretty decent. And she's like, I don't understand how you're just okay with all of this. And, you know, like I'm struggling with just one. And I just reminded her, like, I have the capacity for 4. You have the capacity for 1. You need to be a good steward with your capacity with where you're at.
That is such a good point.
And when I tell people, like, when they're like, oh, I could never have 7 kids. I'm like, well, I didn't just
You can't
wake
right
up.
now. Yeah, you can't right now.
7 kids.
Well, yeah.
You know, it's 1 per time. And so this is another thing I tell, especially pregnant mamas who maybe have a 2-year-old at home and they are feeling all those nerves of like, what am I going to do? And what if I can't do this? And I would tell them, like, you do not have to worry about having any capacity for 2 children until that baby is born.
Yeah.
That baby is born. You are given from your good Lord the capacity to move through it with 2 kids, but you don't need it before. And I think you've said that even about birth. Like, there's no reason being anxious about giving birth because I will be given the capacity that I need only in the moment that I need it. Not when I'm practicing, not when I'm fearful, not when I'm playing hypothetical situations in my head. And I would just say, especially when you're thinking about, like, how do you know you're done having children, which we didn't even hit on fertility. That would be a whole nother podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you know when you're done and how do you know when you're not? And I would say, like, if you're healthy and your body's healthy and your husband's healthy and you guys have a good marriage and things are in a good season, consider it because you don't have the capacity for another child today. But by the time they arrive in 10 months, you will.
Right. It's so true. We kept calling our last child, like, every time something would happen when I was like, oh, this is harder than it was last week. We kept calling it level 8. Like, oh, level 8. Level 8's crying. Like, level 8 needs to be fed again. I'm trying to make dinner and level 8, you know, because it feels like incrementally harder. And then you adjust, you know, because 2 months before that, I thought it was hard enough. You know, like, I definitely did not feel like, oh, I really need something more to do. And then you get to that point again, and it does. It's just like that's a very, very good point. And I think reassuring for a lot of moms to not think like, oh, you're just comparing like how hard something is for you right now for times 7. Subjective. Like Leslie has hard 7. I have 1. Like, it's 7 times harder, you know, like that's hot.
Yeah. Well, and then you get that guilt of like, she's so much better than me. And I would just say, no, you're in your own level of hard.
Yeah. And you're 40, you know, I'm almost 40 this year. And so there's things too.
Hey!
Yeah. This year I'll be 40. And there's things like people, like there's things we're doing like on our farm. Like I just mentioned in my last podcast solo episode that we're putting in a pool, which 10 years ago, me would have never considered. I probably would have been like, why would you want a pool? Like, you have little kids, but I have teenagers. And there's a lot of reasons why in this season of life that I couldn't have understood 10 years ago, that I really think it's a good thing for our family.
Oh, it is really smart. I mean, that is the best babysitter, especially when your kids, like my 5-year-old can swim really well. So I'm only really, any offense can mitigate.
Yeah, I only have 2 non-swimmers right now. I have 6 swimmers and 2 non. But
that's like pool party every day for free and without getting in the van.
I'm all about it. But it's just funny though, because like we compare things and we think like, oh, I wouldn't do this or that. And it's like, maybe when you're 40, you'll see things. There's just things like, there's just things that happen as you move through life, as you know, do this certain thing, add this certain child, like as you grow, things that end up making sense, things that don't. And we're all just kind of on our own trajectory with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, you just walk and trust that there's going to be a net underneath you. And when you make a decision, there is going to be help on the other side of that decision. But sitting on the sidelines and playing hypothetical scenarios and things like that, it's really hard to live. And I promise you that this is why I'm a huge fan of just making the decision and acknowledging where you're at. So when you have 2 small kids or you're welcoming a new baby, you can say, this is hard. This is what hard feels like. And also I have the capacity for this day. I don't have to worry about next year. Because what we tend to do is tell ourselves the story is like, it's never going to get easier. So if I add another baby, it's only going to get harder. And I'm like,
harder and harder and harder.
I would actually say it just gets different.
Yeah, it doesn't get harder. It's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But something about your brain is just on this journey and you'll just have to trust us. But yeah, like scripture says, sufficient for the day is its own trouble. And I'm always trying to remember that. Like, what do I have to do today? day.
Just today.
Just today, because
just
so
today.
much of what makes everything hard is just the weight of all the things. It's not like today, when I look at my to-do list, when I look at, how this whole thing's going to be structured, like it's actually not that bad. Like I can put one foot in front of the other. It's all manageable.
Yeah.
It's when you're like, oh, I got to, do things that aren't for today.
Yep, for sure. Well, it was so good to hang out with you.
Yes.
I can talk with you all day long. We won't make this a Joe Rogan podcast, but
I know we're getting ready to.
If you ever go that route, just know I'm ready for a 3.5 hour hangout session, and I'm praying for you guys. And I cannot wait until we get both of our big families together, and those kids can just go play in your pool.
Maybe we'll get that pool.
Get that pool. I'm only like 4 hours away, 3.5 hours away. I'll just zoom up there
with your
and
Dan and your kids.
I'll help you cook because I know how to cook for an RV too. So
cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
All right. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to head to leslieburris.com. And if you're interested in checking out Elby's, which is over there, the liver that she talked about, her newest endeavor, and then, it's a jumping off place for all things Leslie Burris to follow up or follow along with her and her podcast. She has the Peace on Purpose. A lot of what we talked about today was just being peaceful when things can seem chaotic. A lot of these things, like I do it too. Like I downplayed some of it, like, oh, you just have to worry about that. I do worry about that. But these are some of the things, like some of the strategies for avoiding that. And she is so great at speaking into that. So head over to leslieburris.com. We'll also link it down below. As always, thank you so much for listening
to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. My husband Luke and I and our 8 kids work together side by side on our little homestead and use our blog, podcast, and YouTube channel to reach other homemakers, home cooks, and homesteaders with practical recipes and daily family life. For everyday sourdough recipes, make sure to check out our blog, farmhouseonboone.com, and to dig deeper, we do also offer a course called Simple Sourdough over at bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. That's all one word, bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. If you're looking to learn how we earn an income online, check out my YouTube course at bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube course, all one word.